One of Bassini for Pro Boxing fans here with Eddie Hearn. Eddie, how you doing? Go on, you've got something to say. What have you got to say? What have you got to say?
I wasn't going to say anything, mate. I was just going to say good to see you. And up and down motorways and around the world, but living life, mate, living life.
Back in Sheffield, Kid Galahad this time. Before you've done many fights here with Kell Brook. Now it's Kid Galahad. And just talk to me about Kid. We know from yourself and Dominic that he's the most dedicated fighter in the sport and whatever else. But really and truly, what's the main goal for him? We know Kiko is, if you look at it from the outset, it's just a fight that he should win and then go for the unification. But for Kid and someone that you know quite well, what's the sort of map for him for the next maybe 3-4 fights?
Well, I'm pleased and proud for him because he has given his absolute life to the sport of boxing. He's a product of the Winco Back Gym. He's a product of Brendan Ingle, and of course Dominic Ingle as well. And it's a big moment for him to headline the arena and defend his world title. I like the fight with Kid Galahad, and I think you're right, it's a fight he should win, with Kiko Martinez, because when I look through the rankings, there's a lot of Brits that chose not to accept the fight for many different reasons. Kiko Martinez was the guy who I knew would give it 110%. He had a brilliant fight with Zelfa Barrett recently up at Super Feather, which is not his weight division. I know that he's going to give it everything, and obviously it's big for us with Spanish boxing as well, with the work we're doing. So I think it's a good homecoming defence. Of course, unification's on the horizon. The Navarrete fight for me is the fight, and Kid Galahad might be the one. Might be the one to beat all those champions. Got a brilliant fight coming up with Michael Conlan against Lee Wood. Tremendous fight. And maybe he could face the winner of that. But I think Navarrete is the one we'd like to see, but can't take his eye off the ball on Saturday.
And in regards to Kid, you spoke to him over there and you said to him, listen, the fans are going to be behind you, it's going to be crazy. And he was like, look, listen, I don't care. When you have a fighter like that who's just solely focused on boxing, and maybe not the entertainment aspect, the stuff outside boxing, how do you sort of, what can you do with someone like that? Because it must be a bit more difficult to promote someone like that.
Yeah, I don't think that Kid Galahad is ever going to be the biggest name in boxing because of his choice of the way he chooses to live his life. He is quite robotic. But you have to sell him in a way that you have to be honest with people and say, this guy is a gym rat. He's so dedicated to the sport. It's all he cares about. He doesn't care about, he wants a nice ring walk, but, he doesn't care about the other stuff that comes with it. He just wants to win. He wants to train. He wants to fight the best. And that's Kid Galahad. He's not Naz in the respect of the way he's going to come out with his attitude and personality. So you have to put him in great fights. Another reason that we chose Kiko Martinez is because we want someone that's going to come to win and come to fight. And you have to look at the performance against Jazza Dickens from Kid Galahad. That was an impressive performance. That was a high punch output performance. It was an aggressive performance from him. But I feel like these are the kind of fights where Kid Galahad needs to be aggressive. Because people will always use the excuse when there's a great fighter to say, oh, he's not entertaining. He's not a big enough draw. I've used it plenty of times when there's someone I didn't want to fight. So with Kid Galahad, you've got to go out, you've got to look explosive at all times. And this applies for all fighters. I hope Chris Billam-Smith's listening over there. He's always explosive. You have to be entertaining. That's the reality. And you've got to win. And you can't just be an idiot and be reckless, but you have to go and knock people out. So he should be looking to do that on Saturday night. And in terms of selling him and all, you just be honest what he is. As I said, he's a gym rat, he's dedicated to the sport, and he's really, really good. So you have to sometimes send him to America to jump in the unification fight. Because he's not going to be filling Sheffield Arena unless he's fighting a Lee Wood or a Michael Condon or these kind of fights, So that's where you're at with him. But he understands that as well.
Talking about the co-main, Terry Harper, at least a good fight that is, but just sort of talking about female boxing in general, I know you look at Dana White and the UFC as an inspiration. You look at it, Dana White and sort of gone off of his models a few times, but how close are you in regards to female boxing and where they have put female fighting? How close are you to getting to that stage?
Well, they started before us, didn't they, really? I mean, we started with Katie Taylor, but even before that, I think that was around the time of Ronda Rousey and Holly Holm and those kind of fighters that you started to see headlining main events. Harper Baumgardner, brilliant fight. I mean, look, you saw Chantel Cameron against Mary McGee recently, brilliant fight. Michaela Meyer against Hamadouche last weekend, brilliant fight. We've still got a long way to go. It's not rating like the big men's fights yet, but it's really entertaining. It's high quality, and it's important that we keep on developing it. Baumgardner, very, very good fighter. This is a dangerous fight for Terry Harper because she's coming back from a year out of the ring. 2-hand operations. Baumgardner can really punch. You know, you've seen a few Americans come over recently. Mary McGee in a great fight. Jamie Mitchell dethroned Shannon Courtenay. And you've only got to speak to Baumgardner to see how much she believes she's going to win this fight. So we need Terry to come through this one. Choi has signed a contract to fight her. Michaela Meyer as well, of course, big undisputed fight. So she must win on Saturday.
On the stage there, you said you were going to double the purse for one of the fights there. UFC does a lot of this performance of the night, give 50 grand to fight of the night, 50 grand to. Can we see a little bit more of this happening?
You can, yeah. I mean, it wasn't a direct copy of the UFC, but it's something I thought about for a long time. And Hopey Price was ill, so he was going to open the broadcast, the main broadcast. So I put Flint against Hunt on to open the broadcast. One, because it's a really good fight. Two, undefeated guys just going to go and give it everything. And I just thought, what I'll do is I'll double your purse if you win by knockout. Chris Billam-Smith asked if that applies to him as well. The answer's no, because he punches a lot harder than him. So, but I think we should do more of that. You know, I think we should have more fight of the night, knockout bonuses, all that kind of stuff, because we want to see entertainment. We want to see great fights. And sometimes you're not incentivised to win in that style. You just want to win. So if that's in the back of your head as well, something you'll have to ask fighters. But we'll trial it on Saturday and see how it goes.
Just want to quickly move over to America. I know there's a big queue behind me, but Devin Haney, when you first signed him, I spoke to you and I said, Eddie, you've been after this US superstar for a long time. Is Devin Haney the one? A couple of years later, where do you put him in that?
Well, I think he is a superstar, but to be a superstar, you need the fights. We really struggled to get him the fights early on. And the most pleasing thing is go into the Jorge Linares fight and come out and go straight into the Jojo Diaz fight. And hopefully now come out and go into the Teofimo Lopez fight. That's where you're going to see the best Devin Haney. And that's where you're going to see him become a superstar. Because he's got everything. You know, he's a tremendous fighter. But the Jojo Diaz fight is a really, really tough fight. And that's a fight that he could lose. But if he comes through that, you know, it's happening the week after Teofimo Lopez against Kambosos. Both of those fights on DAZN. Get Haney commentating on one, get Lopez in Vegas for the Haney fight. That is a fight I believe we can make. Teofimo Lopez, his dad has told me he wants to go straight into that fight. Bill Haney told me they want to go straight into that fight. But they both have tough fights to come through first. But for me, Devin is the best lightweight in the world. But he's got to prove it against A-level opposition. Good performance against Linares. Let's see it against Jojo Diaz.
Has America been a tougher nut to crack than you expected?
Probably a little bit. I mean, I think we're in a great position. To be 3 years in and everyone's saying, well, it's a toss-up between Matchroom, PBC and Top Rank in terms of who's the biggest, is very flattering, to be honest with you. And when you look at the future of their business, not being funny, Bob Arum, and I don't mean this condescendingly, but how long can he keep running that business for? What happens to it after that? PBC, who is the driver of that business? So I think we're in a great position. The DAZN subs are at a tremendous level in America. I just saw from the response of even being in Vegas last week, fans in America love DAZN. They love it. They've been getting Canelo Alvarez fights for $19.99 a month, plus all the other schedule. They just had to pay $80 for a one-off. They love DAZN in America. They've got a really significant, solid subscriber base. The best schedule in boxing, bar none, in America. Now you look what they've got coming up. Now, you've got Munguia against Rosado this week. You've got Andrade against Quigley, World Championship quadruple header. You've got Teofimo Lopez against George Kambosos. You've got Devin Haney against Jojo Diaz. You've got Gennadiy Golovkin against Murata. This is just that's just America. So the schedule's on another level, and they're not asking you to pay $80 to watch Teofimo or $80 to watch Devin against Jojo Diaz. So I think they're in a great position. We are really nicely placed. We have a tremendous business that is on another level in terms of its structure and financially to everybody else. So we'll bide our time, and we'll take them all out of the game.
I want to talk about your pal, Canelo Alvarez. What's next for him, man? Because he's done what he could do, undisputed champion.
Yeah.
The Golovkin fight's always going to get talked about, but Golovkin's going older. People might not they don't want to see it, but it doesn't have that appeal no more. But what's next for him?
Well, that's definitely the biggest fight. You got, obviously, he's fighting Murata at the end of December, but the biggest fight out there is Canelo Triple G, the trilogy, in my opinion, again, which would be for the undisputed. Great fight against Benavidez. He could move to 175. I could deliver him the Bivol fight. Then he could fight Joe Smith. Then he could fight Beterbiev for the undisputed. I mean, that's a war. But it all comes down to what Canelo and Eddie Reynoso want to do. We'll offer him 3 or 4 options. PBC will offer him 3 or 4 options. Someone else might offer him some options as well. And he'll just look at them all and say, yeah, that one. But it's got to be something that excites him. Money's important, but he's got enough of that. it's really more about the challenge and which of those options goes, yeah, I like that fight. And I guess he'll decide that early next year.
Did he send you over a mustard-coloured
No, I didn't get those PJs. I'm not sure I could have pulled those ones off. But no, it was good. I mean, look, I wasn't overly welcome with certain people over there, but we celebrated with him, and he's become a friend, and he's a class guy, unbelievable fighter. And people say, "Oh, you're a fanboy." I am a fanboy. I think he's unbelievable, quite frankly. And he wanted. When I first met him, he told me he wanted to be undisputed. And 4 fights later, I'd done 3 of them. Unfortunately, he didn't do number 4. He did it, and he did it in just over a year. Incredible achievement. And it's a good sign for pound fighters and fighters of that level to have that kind of activity. Wish we could see it more.
Cool. Eddie Hearn, thank you very much for your time. Do appreciate it.